Today I'm going to be showing you how to prune fruit trees in your backyard. G'day there, I'm Dana from Pewakaka Valley, and today we're off to my sister's house to help her prune her fruit trees in her backyard. I'm just loading the boot before we head off, and I'll show you what we've got. I have a large pair of loppers. They're really good for branches that are up to about 1 inch thick. They're nice and sharp. I've got a fold out pruning saw. They're really helpful for the bigger branches. You can use a small chainsaw or just a normal wood saw. And I've got a small pair of secateurs. They're better for the smaller branches. And then I have a container of pruning paste that helps block out fungal infections and bacteria and things that can get into your bigger cuts. I've got my baby carrier because I have a grumpy baby with me. And I have my boots because their backyard is really steep and quite slippery at the moment. It is the middle of winter and it is a beautiful frosty day. Perfect for pruning some fruit trees, but a little bit slippery. I'll see you when we get around there. You can see here, this tree's been tied up really tightly with a string and it's actually caused quite a bit of damage to the bark. So don't tie them too tightly. Now this is a little tree. It's a Pacific Rose, I think, a little apple tree that's been sort of half trimmed. They've started trying to shape it, and then for some reason they've had it all tied up with all the branches straight up, which has actually done quite a bit of damage here to this branch. So one of the first things when you're looking to prune a tree is the first thing you want to do is take out any damaged wood like this. And what they're doing with this one, there's two different ways of doing apples. One is with a main leader up the middle and then sort of rings of branches at different levels. This one they've cut off at the top and it's got 3 main branches here, so they're going to go for sort of that vase or goblet shaped tree with this. So the next thing you want to be doing is taking things out that poke into the middle of that goblet shape. So we'll get rid of the damaged wood and sort of step back and have a bit of a look. You can see over here, this one here, because they've had that tied up, they've like totally smashed that. So I think, and that goes that way, which is kind of stupid too. So this is meant to be one of the main branches, but it's all snapped off, so we'll have to cut it off here. Which probably needs the big loppers, but that's right. And then what we might do is cut that one on a branch that faces that way, so it's going to have a funny kink in it, but it'll grow a branch that way. And then the other thing you want to do, because you just have to envisage it being like a big tree, so like where those branches are going that way and that one's going that way, you don't want them all smushed in together. Yeah. So you kind of have to pick which one to go for. Personally, I would keep that one because this one's pretty rubbish. Okay. So I'd take that one out because it was going to overlap with that one. And then down here, take this one out. So they go in the same sort of direction, but they're no longer sort of angling at each other. Okay. And then the other thing you do is, if you follow this along, you cut your tips back by about 1/3, which they've done to there, which honestly looks a bit of a interesting choice. I'm going to cut it back to there, okay, so that it's like a downward facing, so it'll grow a new branch but it'll grow down. Oh, awesome. So the aim of the game is to try and keep everything open and big, okay, rather than in and closed in on itself. Yeah. And the same thing down here, like that branch and that branch are basically pointing all in the same direction, so if you take that one off, just kind of opens it up a bit more. Yeah. This one here, I'm going to actually cut because it's all damaged there as well. Cut that off there, and that means the new branch will go that way. Okay. Cool. And generally speaking, fruit grows new wood. Fruit trees grow fruit on the new wood. So not the old wood? No, generally not. Some of them will grow an odd fruiting spear like that, will probably get some fruit on that wee tiny bit, but it's actually new wood there in the new growth there. I see. So usually if you keep your fruit trees pruned, then you'll get lots of new wood for the next year, which means you get more fruit. Whereas the
Okay.
big old plum tree at Mum's house that she's never pruned
Yeah.
is a massive tree and
Yeah.
only really puts fruit on the really top new stuff, which is
Okay.
kind of annoying. So this is another apple tree. My sister and her husband have just moved here kind of recently, so we don't actually know what this tree is going to look like when it all fruits out. But if you look at the bottom there, it kind of looks like that left hand side is the grafted tree and the right hand side might be the rootstock that's growing. Usually apples should have one main stem and not look like this, but we're going to work with what we've got. So again, we're going to go for more the goblet shape sort of thing in here, purely because it's got the multi stems at the bottom, and it's really quite tall, so we're going to cut back some of the height as well so that it doesn't get out of control. Try and keep it tamed, and all in here, all this extra stuff that's all crossing over, we'll give that a really good thin out while we're here. As far as I can see, there's probably not too much damaged stuff. And here you can see where this branch here has been rubbing on the main stem, and it's caused quite a bit of scar tissue in there. Now with any of the bigger cuts you do, oh yeah, there's another one there. With any of the bigger cuts you do as well, I have got some pruning paste to cover up little branches like this. It's not usually worth worrying about, but if you're cutting any of these main bigger branches, it's worth putting some pruning paste on. It helps seal the cut and stops the fungus getting in and killing your plant. So I'll step back and have a wee look. And to stop it ripping all your bark off, it's quite good to go up underneath to cut the bark before you get to it, because otherwise you get to a certain point and it just bends and just shreds your bark off. Oh, it's blue. There we go. Blue pruning paste. I thought it would be black.
Oh wow. Bright blue.
It is, and it's like a rubbery sort of thing. So that it just seals all the stuff off. Alright, what else do we need to do in there? Because it's such an odd shaped tree, I'm going to shape this one like a separate goblet, so you're going to end up with like goblets within goblets.
Okay.
Basically, you just don't want them crossing over in the middle, because that's how you get damage. And also, if you open it up, then it gets lots of light and air circulation and stuff, so you're less likely to have fungal problems on your fruit.
Oh, awesome. So yeah, this one and that one.
Holy moly! It's like a dog's breakfast in here. I think we'll take out that one and that one. And the thing with pruning trees is there's not actually like set rules. It's kind of, there's theories,
Yeah.
and then you kind of have to, it's your own fruit tree, right? Make it up as you go along. Trees regrow, and as long as you're not making it super lopsided, like there's different ways of doing it, but as long as you don't make it fall over in the wind, you're probably not going to do it wrong.
Wow, that changed a lot.
I'll take that one in as well. So it is a wee bit of a process. You kind of have to just take one bit at a time and work your way through.
So the ones, like these little ones down there, they'll turn into these eventually one day.
These down here? Yeah.
And then you take it off at this point.
Yeah,
After
well,
you've got your fruit from it and stuff.
yeah, so these really little ones, where's the camera? These little ones down the bottom will eventually turn into big branches as well. So I'm actually going to take those ones off because you don't want a big branch going up through the middle of those. But that one down there will probably be fine because it'll just be a nice low branch. And once they're fruited, like in the winter time, so it'll grow all this new stuff and these like fruiting spurs, so you get your blossoms on all of these stabby things, and so you'll get blossoms on those, and so you can cut these back by quite a lot, usually at least a third, which will help limit the height of the tree. But these wee bud things will be where the blossoms all come out, which will be where the fruits all end up.
So that's how you keep your fruit tree small.
Yeah.
Keep fruiting.
Yeah, so you kind of prune them back, but leave some of the ones that have got the fruiting spurs on them. Now it feels bad taking off all these ones that have got fruiting spurs on them, but in the long term it'll be way better. It just feels a bit harsh at the moment. Take those ones off, take that one off.
So even if you make a mistake and say you took something like this whole branch here off, right?
Yeah.
You could leave something like this and that would come back to this eventually.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. So even if it just has a bud pointing in the direction you want to branch, it'll grow another branch there eventually.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's very forgiving. So you can see with this we've taken heaps of stuff out of the middle in here and really opened it up. And so the next one I'm going to go through with the loppers and take out some of these sort of medium-sized branches that are in and all crossing over and tangling up. Like these ones. What you playing at? And see with these two, like when they're big branches like this, you're not going to want these three even that close together. So what you do is you choose the one that's kind of sticking out straightest and take out the one that's poking most straight up because you're trying to open the whole thing out.
Yeah, because then that new growth will come out this way as well.
Exactly. So we take that off. Just a wee bit back there. And kind of the same thing, because these ones are quite close together and actually there's this little baby branch here coming more this way. I think I'll take that one off. I'll let the baby branch do what it needs to do. And then these ones here, you can cut them back. Usually you do them by a third, so I don't know how long that was for them to have cut back there. Did they do that on purpose? Or if they just hacked it back? I don't know. And same thing, you usually find like a bud that's on the side of the branch that you want the branch to point to. So if we cut it back to here, then the next branch will it'll go down.
I see.
Excuse me, rather than up.
So that will stop the growth coming this way?
It'll still come this way, but it'll kind of go down rather than straight up, because you want to be able to reach as much of the fruit as possible. This is a really good demonstration here where all these branches are all twisted in on top of each other. You can't have branches that are like this and then expect them to get to this sort of size or bigger, because it's just going to be a disaster. So what you want to do is trim them all out, and actually all I'm going to leave is this one here and take all these other ones out. I'm choosing this one because it sticks out further and the actual branch itself goes out quite well as well. So I'll trim off all these ones and then cut this one to a downward facing bud so that it can grow out that way. Just progress on the tree. We're getting there slowly, opening out a whole lot. I've taken a whole lot out of the middle of the tree. And where there's a few growing, you just sort of choose one, and preferably the one that's pointing the most up, out and away. We've taken a huge big stump out of the middle just to try and open it up. So I've done this side, that's pretty much finished. I just need to pruning paste the last of those, and I'm just still working on this side here. So this is the final product, what we've ended up with, and we've taken a whole lot out of the middle and really opened it up. Probably reduced how much fruit they're going to get this year, but next year it'll be a lot better, and overall it'll be a lot better for the tree to be that opened up. Now this is a tiny little dwarf apricot tree. Whoops, I kicked the camera. See, it's standing at about waist height on me. I am going to give it a bit of a prune, and I'll show you a few things. There's not a huge amount to prune out of there just because it's so small, but there are quite a few overlapping branches. Like this one here is coming up through the middle, which is not what we want. This one here is pointing into the middle, so we'll trim that out. And there's a few here that are literally bending back in on themselves as well, so we'll take those out as well. For the most part it's not too bad. We might look at taking this main couple of branches out as well, just to keep it to 3 main leaders, which is usually what you're aiming for with stone fruit. I'll just get my loppers. Yeah, actually maybe even just the little ones might be enough. Thank you. Awkwardly, I have a baby that won't let me put him down and needs to sleep quite desperately, so I'm doing this around a baby strapped to my front. So if I look a little awkward, that's why. So the first thing you want to do when you're coming up to pruning stone fruit is to check and remove any damaged wood. Anywhere where the branches are overlapping and rubbing against each other, that will make a hole in the bark, which is where viruses and fungal infections can get in. Any of these dead branches, you can prune those off as well because they're not doing anyone any good. And with stone fruit, what you want to do is open it up so you have a nice open crown, which lets lots of light in and plenty of air circulation, which helps decrease the risk of fungal infections and fungal fruit problems, as well as making sure the fruit gets plenty of light, which helps with the ripening. So I mean, that in itself has opened up a lot. This one here, these ones are overlapping with these ones, so what you want to do is kind of pick and decide where you want your branches to go, because remember, each of these little twigs is going to eventually become a big thick branch. So usually if something's pointing into the other thing, you take it off right back at the plant, and that just opens it up that much more. Look at this one, it like goes burp. Looks alright, eh? So there we go, that's a dwarf apricot tree pruned. Luckily it was pretty much shaped already, so there wasn't too much to do with it. But we've opened up the middle, taken out the dead branches and the damaged branches. Usually you'd trim your fruiting, your newer sticks back by a third, but actually they're really short, so I'm not going to be touching those because it's such a small little tree. Right, this is a plum tree. We're not sure exactly what type. Whoa, I'm falling down. Because the signs all come off. Anyway, we're going to give it a really good pruning because it doesn't look like it's been pruned at all. And it's got branches all over the place. Those two are rubbing against each other. And they're all growing all up in the middle. Same thing with plums. You kind of try and go for that goblet shape, and they've chopped it off nice and low when it first came up, and it sprouted off to 4 main leaders, but then they've not done anything since, and it's getting quite wiry and out of control. Fruit, you want to open it up and cut them so that they're going to those outward facing branches, to try and get that more open goblet shaped plant. And then usually you trim the new growth back by a third just to limit the size of the tree as well. I hope you found that video useful. If you did, hit the like button, consider subscribing to our channel. We bring you videos twice a week on growing and preserving your own food. We'll see you in the next one.